Good afternoon. You are now entering Sapo Studios. Frogs and species of all kinds are welcome. Fasten your seatbelt. You are in for quite a ride. Initiating Scratch Track Saturday in 5,
4, 3, 2.
Anonymous. Saturdays.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sapo Studios Scratch Track Saturdays. You got your boy ASAP Froggy, the one, the only, Bingus Frog. Who's that? And we are welcoming you from the beautiful West Hollywood, California.
Yes, thank you so much for being with us. Let me tell you a little bit about who we are.
We're also at the art department.
Yes, we are at the art department in West Hollywood, right off the Sunset Strip, and we are Sapo Studios. Our goal is to bring the majority of profits and ownership rights back into the hands of artists. We operate under the umbrella of the Notorious Frog NFT project, aka Frogland. Do your own research, but get involved. We have plans to unveil a marketplace where you can buy and sell stems and do a whole lot more. But until then, we're jamming with artists, chatting it up with them about music, life, and NFTs. Today, we are very, very excited to have Rae Isla in the studio. Thank you for being with us, Rae.
I'm so excited to be here. I just moved to LA, so this is my first IRL podcast experience.
Cool. That's very
We're
cool.
happy to share that with you.
And what's particularly cool about that is ASAP over here, who has a knack for sniffing out talent all over the place. Yep, using that schnoz to sniff out very talented people. He reached out to you when we were still very much a grassroots operation in his kitchen in Burbank.
Yep.
And once we finally were able to lock down a date with you, we're in this upgraded space, and it's super cool that you're getting to visit us here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, don't knock the kitchen. I made a demo in my living room last night, which is also my bedroom because I live in a studio, and I think it sounds great. So,
there's nothing wrong with the kitchen. We always said that we felt like like Steve Jobs back in the day in the garage, dreaming up plans of what might be Apple someday. So.
Absolutely.
Got to start somewhere.
Humble beginnings.
Yes. But so you're from Seattle, is that right?
I am.
Yeah.
And I was just there.
And you were just there. And it was quite fortuitous because I was in Seattle for work, and I'm looking at what's going on in the area in terms of music. And at my hotel, they had this business card thing that said, if you're a member of this hotel for certain dates, there's music going on in the area, there's a festival, and you can get in free with proof of stay at the hotel with your room card. So one of the performances in that circuit was yours. And it looks like you didn't even know that.
Well, the
That's
craziest
so
thing
random.
about everything's random.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it sort of peaceful, the randomness. But that show wasn't supposed to happen, and I wasn't supposed to be there for it.
You were kind of saying that at the performance, that you stayed a little bit extra because you felt like there was something drawing you to that show. Is that right?
Well, clearly, same.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, I extended my trip a couple of days. I was there for some other reasons. And because my friend who books a lot of shows, including in that space at the Fremont Abbey, was like, we have this little grant for this festival, but I'm too busy to put it together. And, it's just sort of, Rae, do you want to do that? You want to run point on this, which is sort of my specialty, is just taking some pieces and trying to make something happen. And I was like, okay, I don't care if it costs money to change my flight. I want to do it. And then you ended up being there, and it was actually really well attended and magical. And
well, yeah.
stuff.
What was kind of funny was I show up, and there's 2 floors to the Fremont space. So I go to the first floor, which is the doors open, and it looks like there's a lot of people cruising around in there, some sort of an art show. And because it looked like more of an art show than a music show, I was like, am I in the right space? And I placed my card that I got from the hotel and my room key on the counter, and the guy looks at them, and he looks at me, and I could tell he's got no idea what I just put in front of him. And I go, you don't know what that is, do you? And he goes, I have no idea. And I was like, yeah, I'm looking for this music event. And someone next to me was like, I think that might be upstairs, man. So I went upstairs, and what a lineup. I mean, there was spoken word poetry that was kind of infused with some singing over guitar. This duo that did that, and then 4 or 5 unbelievable individual musicians. You were amazing, and it was so cool that you and I think one other person, I forget who, said that they were playing songs that you would only hear the way that they were performed that way that night, because they were songs that you don't usually perform, and every time you perform them it's like a special thing, and it's a different experience. So talk about that. Why exactly do you hold back a song like that just for special occasions, so to speak, and how does it morph each time?
Well, it's funny that you say hold back, because I don't think of it that way. I think what I was speaking about at the event, and something I've sort of been thinking about for a long time, especially being in Web3, is the idea of what it means to release music. And I think we've all been programmed to believe that releasing music is you record it, you mix, you master it, and you commercially distribute it. And that is one form of release. But I think because so many of us are creating music and releasing it into a digital void, we don't actually get the catharsis aspect of release. We don't actually get to release this oftentimes tension and emotion and all these things that go into a song. And the reason that we share music to begin with is to have that release. That's our sort of payment. And
there is something about, regardless of what kind of a performer you are, the live aspect of things where you do feel an energy from the audience, and there's something about the electricity in the room that does just feed into whatever you're doing.
Yeah. So I think of every time I play a show, whether there's a version of a song that I play that's recorded and put on Spotify or not, that doesn't matter. I'm releasing a new version of it every time I perform. It's a legitimate release, and in fact, maybe more impactful than just putting it online.
See, that's really cool. Are there elements of it that change?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I forget lyrics.
Yeah. see, that's so cool. And I feel like there's some live musicians that we all know and love that do that, and there's some that literally go buy a book. And it's verbatim every single night.
Yeah.
And it's kind of I work at a concert venue, so I see a lot of live music, and some artists have come and played a lot of shows in a row there, and it's literally push play and they sing. It's so choreographed that I don't know how if I would be able to do that. It seems like you would need that change of pace or change of creativity or change of release in that way.
I think it's, being independent, I have absolutely no rules, which is usually a good thing. But I think there's some value in the, having the same show every time as well. Mm-hmm. Because if you manage to make the perfect recording, which is a different art form, and people fall in love with that recording, then it makes sense to share it again and again. But I think the way that I record music for the most part is not to a click track. I like sort of rough aspects to the recording. So I think it makes sense to record and perform different versions.
Yeah, I think it's about the individual, because I totally get what you're saying about that aspect of, okay, it's a specific type of recording and it was mastered and now people want to experience that. But for me, I want to see something new at a live show, because you're in that moment with the musician and they're having an opportunity to go through their song where they're not going back and fixing the vocals and they're not going back and adding another lick here or there. It's just whatever comes out. And there's something really exciting about that and fresh.
I agree.
And there's a good reason to go see you live multiple times.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
It brings value to that,
Yeah,
which is
no,
awesome.
and at this point, it's kind of a promise that, you can request a song. Because I've been performing quote unquote unreleased songs for a year or two. So I was in the process of making a record. Now it's done and sort of trickling out at a rate that's too slow to keep up with my shows. Right. So there's a cohort of people who have come. Actually, some people from Web3 especially, who are not averse to traveling, who have come to multiple shows this year and heard these one-on-one versions of unreleased songs, to the point where they know that they can request those songs in the back channels for a live show, and other people are just going to discover them for the first time.
And before I go back to the bio and kind of rewind back to the beginning of everything, I was kind of curious when I was at the event. I had my cell phone, and there were certain songs that I wanted to record so that I could show other people how magical this night was. And I know that there's something about just putting the technology down and being in the moment. but I almost felt like I was doing something wrong when you said like, hey, this is a song that if you're not here tonight, no one else will ever hear. And then I'm like, they're recording. I'm like, well, unless they watch this video. So how do you feel about people recording a moment like that when, you know, you are kind of projecting this idea that this is a very special, intimate moment that you're just having with this audience?
I am not a gatekeeper in that sense. I think everyone should have access to any form of magic, however, wherever, whatever. But I think being in a physical space, we're physical creatures, we're not artificial. Being in a physical space and feeling the music isn't something that you can capture on a phone.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, so
And
I'm not worried.
The epitome of that was Drew Martin's performance, because I mean, just the way that guy performs is unbelievable. The music was just coming out of him, the way that he was like vibrating and shaking, and he's got such an energy about him. And there's something definitely about, like, I've tried to show people, look at how masterfully he plays the guitar, and it just doesn't translate through the video. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
if you were
like-
in that room, it was
they're
like
like,
a
cool.
religious experience.
Next clip, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's
You had to
today's
be there.
audience. Right? Yeah. But and what an awesome night it was to be there. So that was very cool. So you're classically trained in cello. What made you made the transition over to guitar and piano being kind of your main instruments?
Well, I started playing cello when I was 3. So actually, I was going to say it wasn't a choice, but it was. There's sort of this story that I like to tell sometimes, which I guess would be a musical origin story. I have 2 siblings, and we're all really close in age. And our mom took us to a music store in Seattle. I was 3, my brother was 5, and my sister was 6. And she was like, you guys are going to do music. That's going to be, you know, that's sort of our family thing. You can do sports if you want to, but like we didn't have a TV in the house. It was like, we're going to do music, kind of hippie. And she let us choose our instruments. And my brother chose the violin, my sister chose the piano, and I chose the cello. So, or it chose me. I don't know. I was 3.
And that's interesting that you all chose different instruments, because siblings being the way they are, usually it's like, oh, you're playing that, I want to play that. That's mine.
Yeah, maybe we're the opposites. Like, you're playing that, I'm not playing that.
Right.
You know?
Not
we're,
touching it
we're,
with a 10-foot
we're
pole.
too independent, actually, to this day. But yeah, I played for 10 years, and I did Suzuki curriculum, and I think it was like pulling teeth to get me to practice because I was still a kid. But my mom was very adamant about sticking with it. And then she said, you know, at a certain point you can quit and you can do whatever you want. And I quit, and I was like, I don't want to do that anymore, but I love music. Like, I wanted to touch every instrument and play every instrument.
At what point was that?
I was
Like what age?
12 or 13, yeah, something like
You
that.
played for quite some time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you played cello for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
I definitely picked up other instruments in the middle, but yeah, I was obsessed with music. I mean, I still am.
Were your parents musicians as well? Or did they just have an affinity for music and they were like, well, the kids will do it?
Well, they weren't professional musicians or anything, but they definitely, it was a musical house. Like, my mom sang. My dad, actually, I didn't learn this until I was an adult. My dad used to play piano. I'm like, how did I
okay.
not know that?
So it's in your blood.
I guess.
So then you decided to make the transition over to guitar and piano, and did you train yourself in that, or did you take lessons?
Yeah, I had like a couple guitar lessons or a couple piano lessons. But because we already had a piano in the house and we didn't have TV, the piano became like the central gathering place in the house, like at family holidays or whatever. And so I always felt this sort of, you know, being magnetized to the piano. And then when the songs started to arrive, which is what it feels like it's what's that melody, right? Then I'd go sit at the piano and try to make them tangible. And then that I kind of learned to play piano via the songs, and they became inextricably linked over time. And then, you know, I realized the piano was a tool that was limiting, so you pick up the guitar, and that's like a new tool. Tried the saxophone, that was horrible, or I was horrible at it, rather. And yeah.
were you recording all of these things, or this was just kind of an experimental phase for you where it was disconnected from any kind of technology and you were just playing and learning? And
that's a good question, because, you know, I didn't have an iPhone. I think the first time I was able to record my songs other than like a VHS, you know, camcorder or something was when I was 15. I had played a song at this fundraiser, and someone in the crowd was like, I want to help you, you know, early patronage, and he paid to have some demos recorded.
That's
with
so wild.
one of the shepherds
Like
from
just a stranger.
what is it, Pearl Jam? or Soundgarden. Oh my God, I'm a bad Seattleite because I'm
They're
mixing
both
up names.
amazing.
Yeah. Wait, Henry Shepard?
I'm not from Seattle, so
Oh,
I'm
no.
excused.
Probably more sound.
X this out of the podcast.
We'll
They're
edit-
gonna
we'll
kick
edit
me
this
out of
in- we'll edit-
Seattle.
yeah, if you don't know the intricacies of Pearl Jam, then you're
Oh,
in trouble
no.
for being a Seattleite.
No, it's not Pearl Jam. It's Soundgarden.
Oh, it is
I'm so
Soundgarden?
embarrassed. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, look up Soundgarden, Dave. Look up
The
the
Shepherds.
look up the.
I had no idea who it was when we were recording either. I only tell this after the fact because I'm like, oh, that was like a famous person recording my demos, you know?
Right.
So wild.
Well, and what's
Yeah.
interesting about it is we've
And
heard.
you're still like, what the hell was that guy's name?
Well, and we've heard a lot of artists of all different types come on the show and say that, like, these opportunities kind of in one way or another like gravitated towards them, like, you know,
Yeah.
and that's a very amazing thing about being a talented artist, is that sometimes things just kind of do gravitate your way if you also are open and you know, loving and caring and you know, accepting of the space.
There's also something really cool about not knowing who people are in some way, where you're not like, I mean, it's good to know who people are, but if you're like infatuated by them and you're like missing the moment because you're like, or you think too much, you know, it's like you were validated in that moment.
It is a very rock star move.
Yeah, to like be like, I'm not
I
really
think it's
sure.
just a naive little shit
Yeah,
move.
yeah.
Did you find out who the shepherd was?
Wait, I don't even know what I'm looking up. Soundgarden.
Soundgarden. No,
or
you're looking.
Pearl Jam, just these little indie bands from Seattle, you know.
Yeah, no, nobody
God.
huge.
And you just want to know everyone's name in the band.
Well, but yeah, if there's someone with the last name Shepherd, that's the point
That's
of
the
interest.
mark.
That's the mark.
I think it's Soundgarden. Like my money is
yeah, I think.
on
you're
it.
probably
All
right.
right. Well, Dave will come back to us with that
Well,
one.
it's not
Help.
Pearl Jam.
But did your siblings stay with their instruments, or did they also branch off into other instruments, or just give it up completely?
My sister gave it up for the most part. My brother maintained his musicality. He's an artist. He's a
Yeah,
really
Ben
talented.
Shepherd. Sorry.
There we go.
From Soundgarden.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Okay.
bass player.
So Henry is Ben's brother. This is
this what
my
he looks
memory
like?
from 15 years ago, by the way. So I think I'm doing okay. Yeah, Ben Shepherd was in the band, and I think his brother Henry was like a sub bassist or something like that. Anyway, he recorded my first demos, which were these intimate piano recordings, which, if you are familiar with that name, intimate piano recordings came into my NFT journey many years later.
And in terms of that journey, and we'll kind of go back to that later, but you have over 2,000 NFTs sold. At least that's what it said on your website. It's probably way more than that now, which is an impressive number as an artist. You look like that's not true or something like that. This
you look like
happens
something's
I
wrong.
think
Yeah, no,
it's
sometimes
more-
I do this
my
research
is
that
wrong,
that
I'm
just
an
comes
asshole.
up to a dead end, and I'm
No,
like,
I was just thinking, I was like, that's a lot, but also I think it's more.
Well, it's got to be more because I don't think that you'd be purporting a lie on your site, and it said sold over 2,000 NFTs at that point, whenever that information was released. So it's got to be more at this point.
This is what happens when you're your own website updater.
Yeah.
Hasn't been updated in a while.
Hasn't been updated, but also, I think it's also. I was making that face because I'm like, why did I put that metric in my bio? Probably because it like looks impressive or something, but
Well, you're a leader
NFTs
in
are
the
so
space.
but NFTs are so qualitative. It's like, the number doesn't really matter because there are some that I think are worth everything, and there are some that are just sort of open. And so I'm just like,
Sure, but
I
I mean,
don't put
look,
that
as
number.
much as creatives, we want to just stay in the creative realm. There also is a business to this creative thing, and if you
Yeah.
want to make a career out of it and making money, and it is impressive, especially when it's hard to sell any NFTs, especially
that's
now.
what I was going to say. Was like
that-
it's hard to sell any of them, and it's like that validates you. That again, it shows that people want to buy your music.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like
I
and
think
support you.
it mostly shows that we have a rock solid community,
Yeah.
and that
is that a pun for your rock
it,
project?
it's so beyond a pun at this point. It's engraved in my heart. It's really, we have people that are just so solid like the earth, and that have continually supported even through the bear. Like, I started. And I know we didn't want to get totally into the NFT stuff
It's
yet.
okay. Yeah, no.
Well, I
dive
we're
in.
here,
In.
We'll dive right in. I started creating them, minting them when we were no longer in the bowl. So I've never really experienced that sort of gold rush feeling that people talked about.
Which is amazing that you've still sold so many.
Wait, so you started your sales of NFTs after the whole thing? That's so weird. I feel like I had been following you for so long.
I'd been in the space, but I spent maybe 5 or 6 months in the space, like actually daily before we actually started to do stuff.
Yeah, like I know like in 2021 at least. No. Wow.
I attended my first Twitter space in February of 2022.
That is wild.
I didn't even know
Good
what it was.
you.
I didn't know what I was clicking on.
Someone
That's
invited?
amazing.
Oh, you just were randomly clicking.
I was on Twitter. It was another one of those like
It found you.
It found me. I don't know why I was on Twitter. I had tweeted like a couple times that year, you know?
That was like me just randomly buying Dogecoin when I had no idea what it was, and then sold it, and then like 2 weeks later, it was like I could have made a lot of money.
Yeah, could have, would have, should have.
Yeah.
That's the nature of the space, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back. So you kind of transitioned from the cello to being a vocalist and a pianist and a guitarist, and then you go to Berklee College of Music to study voice and business. How do you think that helped or didn't help at all in terms of turning this into a career or getting your head around the idea that you could make a living in music?
I think it helped a lot. More so the school aspect or the like going to that school actually, like from an industry perspective, didn't help that much until recently. And I'll explain why. But I think, why I would recommend that for other people who want to get into music is I knew that I wanted to go there when I was like 15. Somebody told me about the school and I was like, wow, you can go to college for that. And all these people went there and all of that. So I got a scholarship to go to one of their summer programs and I was like, okay, even more hooked. So I think having that as part of the dream and setting this intention years before I actually went just gave me direction, because I think with music, I mean, there's no one to mentor you until you find that mentor by happenstance. And so I was able to be in a space where I sort of set my intention and my sights on the school. I got some scholarship. Like I was like, it definitely was a boost of confidence to be able to be admitted there.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing school and an institution. But I'm kind of curious, like, as someone that was kind of coming from a free spirit place, how and whatever will be will be
independent. How do you do with
independent.
people telling you what to do?
Well, yeah, and that, like, just the idea that someone like that would be interested in going to a facility that is so structured and where you were going to be so regimented and okay, this is when you're going to be doing this class, and I'm telling you when you have to be there. Did that fit into your lifestyle, or you kind of had to learn to be a little bit more like that?
Well, I think this is partly in retrospect, but it also rings true today. I don't want structure, but I definitely need it. Yeah. So I think,
as is often the case,
and I can admit that. I can admit that. And I think, whether there's structure or no structure, what is undeniably valuable and what I'm always drawn to is places that contain a lot of energy and a lot of like genius, for lack of a better word, and a lot of talent pools into these like this half-mile radius in Boston, right? And you're in this bubble of like people from all over the world who have a similar dream to you. I think it's really powerful. I think it's the same reason that you would live in New York or LA, or now we're less location bound. It's the same reason that we get on Twitter every day, because there's this massive energy.
Yep. And being connected is so important in terms of being creative, I think, and being open to collaboration and seeing, what someone else will do with something that you've created, how they're going to change it and twist it, and what that will be, what the implication of that will be for what you'll then do with it when it's handed back to you. And that's a really cool process. And speaking of which, do you prefer to be collaborative, or do you prefer to be a solo, not performer, but a solo writer, creator? Because I know that collaborating can be great, but it can also be difficult because you're sometimes coming from two different places or wavelengths or whatever it is.
I think it's easier for me to create alone, and usually, or let's say historically, because who knows, it's a new year soon. Historically, I make my best work alone, but I think it's because I don't put pressure on myself to behave a certain way or feel a certain way or be vulnerable with someone. I think those are hard for me sometimes. And so even like last night I was making this song in my living room with just the most basic gear, but gear that I know works for me. And I had this idea that I knew was like worth going in. And if someone else had come into that space, I think it, it would have changed it in a way that I wouldn't have liked.
Absolutely.
But there are certain people and certain settings where it like pulls on a thread that I don't have access to on my own, and I acknowledge that. And I think it's always challenging to be in a space and with those people where I feel that level of comfort, but when I do, I try to hold on to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Well, I want the audience to get a feel for a little bit of what you do. So let's go ahead and pull up your Spotify here. We have a couple of song options. Did we land on one before we started off? Okay, so do you have one in mind?
Tell us.
If we're talking about collaboration
Yeah.
and that magic combination of elements being, people and places, we have to play Heartbreak Closer.
Okay, well, then I guess
another
we have
another
to.
leader in the NFT music space.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Shout out to-
do you want to say anything about this before we play it, or?
Well, what I was describing about, being with a person in a place where I feel like I'm pulling on a thread I don't have access to on my own. That's what happened with Sammy Arriaga. We were in Austin at a writing camp actually put on by people from Twitter and Web3. And
Is that when there was like groups of people in like different hotel rooms and there was like groups of 4?
that's Duos by Max.
Oh yeah, Max Pretends. We've
Max
had him on
Pretends,
the
yeah.
show as well.
Oh, incredible.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I think Max actually bought like 10 Rae Isla hats from my store.
No
for them to
kidding.
wear.
Yeah,
That's great.
Talk about collaboration coming from the scene. This was a different writing camp called Campfire, which was put together by TK and some other folks. But yeah, you never know when you go into a space like that. But Sammy and I were both coming to it with intention and like, honestly, a level of intimacy in our friendship that we'd built for a long time. And we just were able to put this song out. And I think it's one of the best songs I've ever been a part of.
Oh, wow.
So cool.
Fantastic. Well,
That's so
that's a
cool.
great talk up to the song. Why don't you go ahead and spin that ASAP?
Another tourist stop, another small town, another girl in the front row. I crack a new beer, we pour a few down. These nights are getting so old. All the times I put myself through hell, they were stepping stones. I don't wanna be alone. Just another heartbreak closer to you. Just another heartache I gotta go through. You're the good and the goodbyes, the light in the dark times. And if you don't mind waiting for me, just another heartbreak closer to you. Another motel, another quick rush, another slip out the door. And all the slow drags and empty parking lots, the road taking me home, baby. Just another heartbreak closer to you. Just another heartache I gotta go through. You're the good and the goodbyes, the light in the dark times. And if you don't mind waiting for me, just another heartbreak closer to you. Just another heartbreak closer to you. Just another, baby. Just another heartache I gotta go through. You're the good and the goodbyes, the light in the dark times. And if you don't mind waiting for me, just another heartbreak closer to you.
is so good.
Yeah, that was a gorgeous song. Let me go ahead and reset the room here. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. We are Sapo Studios. Our goal is to bring the majority of profits and ownership rights back into the hands of artists. We operate under the umbrella of the Notorious Frog NFT project, aka Frogland. Do your own research, but get involved. We have plans to unveil a marketplace where you can buy and sell stems and do a whole lot more. But until then, we're jamming with artists, chatting it up with them about music, life, and NFTs. Today we have Rae Isla in the studio, which is super cool. We just listened to Heartbreak Closer, which was an absolutely gorgeous song.
It's very beautiful.
And tell us a little bit about how a collaboration like that goes down. So you said it was one of the easier collaborations because of the intimacy of your friendship with this person. Who writes the lyrics? Do you write them together? Do you write the music together? Do either of you come in with ideas beforehand, or do you just say, we're going to start fresh in this space? How does that work?
Well, I think in general it could be any of those things, but in this case with Heartbreak Closer, Sammy had been sort of ruminating on an idea of, well, kind of the concept behind the song that, you know, finding the silver lining and having your heart crushed is that you're one step closer to finding the person who's not going to do that. And we were just kind of talking about this for a while, and he's like, I want to write a song about this. I'm like, well, I have some experience with this, unfortunately. So when we got into the writing camp, and which is a space where we have a nice room and we have a guitar, and it's sort of like you can just sort of leave everything outside other than the work, it flowed out of us really quickly. I'd say in under an hour we had cut the demo.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because it, you know, and there's no secret recipe for something like that, but I think as close as you can get to like a sure thing is having someone you trust, having some kind of feeling or intention going into it, and then allowing yourself to be in a space where you can kind of receive. And I definitely think we checked all three of those boxes, and the rest was just sort of a miracle.
Do you said with reference to this idea for a song that you definitely had some experience with that. Do you feel that you have to be connected to everything that you write, or can some music just be, oh, this was an interesting idea, let me step into these shoes as a thought and I'll play that out?
I don't think I have to be connected, but I don't really enjoy it if I'm not. And I think it's taken some time to come to terms with, you know, even if it means I don't have financial stability within the music industry, I know what I'm here to do, and I have to do that because there's only so much time. And I think about how it felt to work on songs that weren't, you know, I couldn't resonate with, or maybe were a work for hire, or even like an ad. Like I wrote a cat song for PetSmart. That was kind of fun. I look back and
so Phoebe Buffet.
Yeah, right.
God. No, that one was fun.
Bit more talented.
Well, subjective.
Subjective, sure.
Just the way that a song feels when you are telling your story and experience like as richly as you can is like a revelation.
Sure.
And I'm so addicted to that feeling. So I guess that's a long way of saying I don't even know. Was it a yes or no question?
No, that
yes,
you kind of that you do prefer to be connected to the story that you're telling with regards to your music, and that while you don't have to be, it does make it all that more special and powerful.
You know
that
what?
makes sense.
Actually, I'm gonna take
I'm gonna
back
retract.
part of what I said. You do have to be if you expect other people to.
Mm-hmm.
I think to put something out, or not even to put something out, to create something that you're not emotionally and on a human level connected to, and expect others to be emotionally and on a human level connected to, I think is not possible.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. You have to put in the energy you want to get back, right? So taking us back to Berkeley, you graduate from Berkeley School of Music, which, as we said, is a very accomplished thing to do. It's an amazing school, institution that's been around for quite some time. Everyone's aware of it in the music community. And then you move to Brooklyn. What's the impetus for that move? Was there something, because, again, I'm just going off this bio that may or may not be true. But it said that you kind of started off the music thing as a career once you got to Brooklyn, connecting with the producer, I hopefully don't butcher this name, but Gianluca Bucciolati.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Luca Bucciolati.
Bucciolati, yeah.
Yeah.
Who also produced for Lana Del Rey.
Yeah.
So Did you already have some sort of a connection with Gianluca before you made the trip to New York, or was that a connection you made once you came to Brooklyn? And why did you go to Brooklyn?
There's a couple questions there. Luca and I met when I was in New York. I think the reason, that I really highlighted Luca is because every time you go into a session, you're kind of working with someone, whether it's the engineer or producer or an instrumentalist or whatever. And Luca aside, there were so many people that I got to create with during those early years in Brooklyn that were wonderful. But the first song I ever released as Rae Isla, as like a solo artist, was called Mexico, and we worked on that one together. And it was a pretty formative recording experience for me because he was the first producer where I sort of really watched what he was doing, and I realized, like, wait a second, I know how to do a lot of these things. Like, I may not know all the plugins, and there's these magic things that he's doing, but he actually kind of gave me the encouragement to go and try to produce on my own. I also didn't have any more money to pay a producer, so we kind of did that one song. I learned everything I could, and then the other 4 songs on that EP, which was my first EP, I produced myself in my basement.
That's such an important skill to like download over time, so it doesn't like inhibit you from like creating ideas in the snap of a finger,
Yeah, I think I think the role of a producer, or even what a producer means, has changed so much in such a short period of time that people think producer and they think dude behind a computer pressing buttons, but that's actually more of an engineer.
Right.
A producer is, we've all probably been seeing these clips of Rick Rubin circulating on Instagram. Like, he doesn't actually do anything. At his words. It's like the ability to capture a feeling, and whether you're directly pressing the buttons or not, getting it into a tangible form.
Yeah, Pharrell too.
Yeah,
just kind of being there and saying, oh, what if you did it like this? Or brought this emotion into it, thought about this while you were trying to express that. And it's those little tweaks that can completely change a song.
Yeah, so, I mean, whether you know how to push the buttons or, like, have all the plugins or not, you do, I think, need to have that sense of your sonic vision. But if you can learn to press some of the buttons, and you learn how to use GarageBand or Ableton in my case, and get a few plugins that feel, like you aesthetically, then you can cut demos that are so close to the final product that by the time you bring it to other people, you don't lose your vision in the process.
Sonic vision is a very cool term. I like that.
So in terms of the moving...
But I have a question about that. Like, are you just saying, like, in terms of like sonic vision, are you just saying like imagining the melodies and then like knowing where to go with it, or what do you mean by sonic vision? Like,
I guess
theory?
I would equate it most closely to like fashion. Like, why are you drawn to certain textures and colors? Because they feel good, because they look good, because they make you feel a certain way. Like even me, this is a pretty consistent palette. And I wasn't like, I'm going to wear red pants and a red shirt. I'm drawn to these textures and these colors, and then you put them together and it's like, oh, that's Rae.
Right.
It's the same thing, I think, when recording. And I think you can only really know, let's keep using this term, sonic vision. You can only know your sonic vision by playing around in your computer or playing around in your studio and being like, oh, that reverb makes me feel like this color, or this, I guess there's sort of a synesthetic.
Cool. I love
and to take it back, you also have to be very connected to what you're doing then, and aware of those sounds that you're making and those feelings that you're trying to evoke.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's funny, you're hitting on something that I was FaceTiming my mom this morning while I was making breakfast. She's hiking in the woods, and so I went like on the hike with her, and she was like, "You're in LA. Do you feel successful?" And I'm like, "Well, Mom, honestly, I think the thing that makes me feel successful is knowing myself, and that's what success is. If you can know yourself,
you have
so deeply.
The coolest perception of anyone that we've had on the show. We've had a lot of very, very interesting people, but like your outlook is like, I'm trying to like download some of it over here because like I just have to say wow to artists have a hard time, right? Like being themselves, or like we talk about fear a lot of the time on the show, and knowing yourself seems to be the most important part as an artist. It's to, like, be genuine to yourself.
As a
And
person.
yes.
Yeah. It's like,
yes. As just like, not even as an artist, but just as like your own human.
yeah.
How have you dealt with fear over the course of your career?
I mean, there's like micro ways and macro ways. I think in general, the last few years, I've felt very fearless. And I think that's because I made some like very significant external changes to my life. And, you know, moving to a new place, I mean, here's a list of things that if you change, maybe could trigger some kind of
I was going to
feeling.
ask, but I didn't know if that was like too...
I'm going to give a general list, and these may or may not have been my experiences, but leaving a city that doesn't serve you, ending a relationship that doesn't serve you, leaving a job that doesn't serve you, you know, healthier habits, all of these things. Obviously, like, if you spend time on social media, you're constantly getting fed how-tos, and it kind of feels like BS. But I think knowing yourself is like a daily practice, and I don't even know. I just wake up every day and hope that it doesn't go away, type of thing. Yeah. But it can really help if you know that there's something or someone that causes you daily pain and stress. You have to extract that. Like, it's a thorn under the skin. You have to get it out, because you can't even start to feel good if that poison's in there. And so, yeah, I think if we'd been having this conversation like 4 years ago when I was living in New York and I was horrifically depressed, I would be like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't even know if I like what I'm wearing, and, you know, really insecure and stuff. But yeah, I've just tried to make small and large decisions with my truest self in mind, and it's like kind of been working out.
So now explain this to me, because I feel like there's some sort of a disconnect, and I want to know where it lies. When we talk about, like, you made an offhanded comment about financial stability in the career path, right? But you've sold like over 2,000 NFTs, and in the bear market, and we talk about like success as it relates to anything. And I know that you have a wonderful outlook, so you're drawn to you know, talk about success in terms of these other wonderful things. But, you know, you were part of a song that's going to be featured in a Robert De Niro movie that we have the article right up here behind us that you were featured in Rolling Stone as a result of. And so do you still, because we've had other artists talk about that, they, after these big accomplishments, there still seems to be, in a lot of these creative spaces, no blanket, no sense of comfort, because you're only as good as your next thing you're producing, and, you know, the next check that's coming in. So I don't even know how to phrase the question in there. It's like there's a lot.
What are you saying, man?
What I'm trying.
Now you're expressing my fears.
Now you're just talking.
Well, no. It's like why does it feel like there's such a big disconnect between what should be milestones that progress you, but you don't feel that they're milestones of success in that way, or maybe you do, and it just hasn't been expressed in that way.
No, I know the question you're asking, and it's such a big question that it requires all of that explaining. And
that
it's
was
good.
that was very kind of you.
Yeah, well, it's nice of you to say that all that I just said meant something.
No, I think I ask questions in the same way, where I'm like, so I have a question for you, and then 2 minutes later there's a question mark, and it's like, did you get all that?
Yeah, like maybe you can help me connect those dots. We can collaborate here.
I know,
David, there seems to be a disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a weird thing, because so when I moved to LA, which is really recent, which even with the like NFT stuff and some financial success, whatever, it still felt like, oh my God, this is a big risk. It's really expensive to move. It's really expensive to live here. Like, if I don't keep this going, I'll be out of money really quickly. Mm-hmm. Like,
especially as an independent, I'd imagine,
yeah,
because you don't have a label behind you that's, you know,
fronting you a bunch of cash
and giving you any sort of security net, even if there even is such a thing with those corporations anymore. But yeah, so that must be really scary to,
you know. Yeah, it's weird. I'm not super scared about it, because I don't know, I just kind of look at the last 2 years and they feel a bit unbelievable, and I'm like, well, if all of that could happen, I have no idea what's gonna. I mean, this thing in the movie, in a lot of ways has nothing to do with like the NFT momentum or any of the milestones in that space.
Yeah, how did a song of yours wind up in this Robert De Niro movie? Tell us about that.
Well, it's, I feel like this is the common thread in all the stories today. Should I tell you the full story? Yeah, I'll tell you how it is connected to Web3 in a small way. I was in a Twitter space. I was in a lot of Twitter spaces, but I was in one particular Twitter space. I guess it must have been the summer of 2022, so the last summer. And, I was connecting with so many people at that time, but I connected with another artist girl who's a writer, kind of singer-songwriter, newer at the music, but had been writing for a long time and was working in movies. And it turned out we were almost exactly the same age, which is kind of weird.
Would that be Adrian Ackerman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow,
That's cool.
nice research.
Nice research. Not bad, right?
How old are you, if you don't mind
30.
asking? Okay,
We
cool.
both turned 30 in the summer.
nice.
Yeah, and we just became friends. And because things were so crazy during that time, like being online all the time was really weird.
Yeah.
We started this weekly call called Reality Check, because her and I are both pretty earthy people. And so we really needed to like come back to earth.
Ground.
Yeah. And we became really good friends. And then, she's kind of in movies. She's working on a feature film about her life. And I didn't know anything about movies or that business or that world. And I just ended up meeting a couple people she was working with and, again, becoming friends. Like, no work on the table. I was like, this is my personal time. Mm-hmm. And then someone she was working with listened to my music and loved it and was just like, oh, man, that like I want to help you if anything ever comes up, right? Like, I've heard that a lot before, so there's no guarantee.
Especially in LA. A lot of promises out there.
Lots of fluff.
But this person was really genuine, and we're friends aside from all the work. So fast forward a few months, and I was in the middle of a tour. It was a very hectic time. Like, things were going well. I was exhausted, and I get a phone call from our friend who was like, so we're working on this movie, and we have this song that's in the credits that's not really working, and also, their label wants a lot of money for it. I think it was Arcade Fire. So we're going to strike it, and they're open to an original song, but you need to like do it now. And I was crossing the border to Canada on a phone call with the director, Tony Goldwyn. Like, what the heck is going on? And he's like, yeah, so you can do this, right? And I'm like, yeah, totally. I had 24 hours in between that Canada tour stop and flying to Nashville. And I was like, all right, call one of my collaborators who plays bass in my band, David, like, can you just make it happen? I want to arrive to Seattle and just have all your gear. So we ended up staying up all night recording this song that Adrian had wrote also in like a day. She was like, all right, here's my part. Now you do it. And recorded all night. I brought the same dirty clothes that I had in Canada to Nashville, like no time to shower, no time to be a person, and just like recorded it. And I was like, I hope this is good. Sent it off. And then like a couple more phone calls, and a week later, because they were on such a time crunch, it was edited into the credits of the movie, and it was done. And I'm like,
so amazing.
Surreal.
It still is surreal. It's like, it's never like, all right, you have 3 months to do this thing, and then, it arrives and whatever. So I had to like really try to be present for the whole thing, because it still doesn't feel like it happened.
And I could be wrong on this because I didn't research this part, but when I was scrolling through and I saw Tony Goldwyn and I looked at his picture, is that the guy from the movie Ghost?
Yeah.
He played Sam in Ghost, right? Yeah, across Patrick Swayze. That's wild.
Yeah. He was also, I learned this later, he was Tarzan in Disney.
Oh.
Like the voice of
wow.
Tarzan.
Okay,
I'm pretty
that's
sure.
huge.
I know, and just like random.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tony directed the movie. It was his first directing thing. And what's really cool is that, just having an opportunity to have a song in a movie is crazy.
Yeah.
To have it with the cast that this movie does, another layer of crazy.
Yeah.
To have it be an independently funded movie that has like no corporate interest, another layer of like super alignment.
Right.
And then also to have them be willing, thank you business degree, but have them be willing for me and Adrian to own the rights to the song.
Wow.
Another layer of insanity.
That's unbelievable.
Air high five.
So that's I was saying
Cool.
earlier, has Berkeley helped the career lately?
Yeah. Yeah. So that film is called Ezra. It was at the Toronto International Film Festival, and it will be widely distributed next year. So
Yeah.
be on the lookout
I
for
can't
that.
wait
That's
to go see it
super
in a
cool.
theater
Yeah.
and listen
Yeah,
to your
I'm thinking
music.
about doing like I think it's going to be in theaters in the spring, like doing a watch party and then a show after or something.
That would be really
It'd be
cool.
fun, no?
That'd be
Or
super
if you even,
cool.
I mean, if it plays over the credits, if like you cut out the sound and played it live
just go
over
play
the
it?
credits.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
We got to do it.
So did that start to lead to other work for you, or so that's kind of goes back to that question of like these things that should be milestones and stepping stones. Did that then springboard you into anything bigger and better, or is it kind of like, okay, now I have to figure out what the next move is?
Kind of both, but more so the latter. I've realized, the power of being a part of the industry machine is that it's a machine. And when you have a point of leverage or a moment like this, there's a whole mind of suits that know how to activate that to get the next thing, right?
And that's the hard part about splitting away from that corporation
Yes.
aspect of things. Yes.
Yeah, is that you not only do you have to try to celebrate a win, but you have to wake up the next day and figure out, how am I supposed to leverage this?
Yep.
Yeah, but I think I'm pretty good at leverage, or more so, I
Thank you, Berkeley.
I see how things are connected, and I feel like the last couple of years, especially, and Web3 gave me this intensely, is like understanding value and what people really value. And so I think, what this movie has done more than anything is allowed me to reconnect with a lot of people from my past and be like, hey, you supported me then, like, look like, let's do a little update. And they're like, wow, I'm so glad I supported you then. Whether it's the NFT collectors from the last year or OG fans from my Kickstarter when I was 20. It's just circling back with all of these really impactful individuals because you can't just be an independent artist as a silo and like live in the woods and have a career. I would love to. You still need
Sounds nice.
people. Like the substitute for industry is individual people who see value in you and believe in you. And so this movie has, sort of proved to those people that I was worth their time or their investment at that time. And I think it's not necessarily like, you can't necessarily track what comes from an opportunity, but I feel like more goodness has come in the last few months, and it's definitely because people are excited and they're like, what's she going to do next? And
now, you being on the top 10 for Billboard's NFT sales, did that come before or after you did this for Ezra?
Way before. That
Way
was
before.
Art Basel of last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that just like an amazing moment for you as well to wake up and find out that you were on Billboard is it in terms of music, right?
Apparently. I don't know. I think my indie Twitter spaces back in the day were more it than Billboard.
Fair.
But actually, yes, because I got to share that moment with some close friends in the space who were also on the list. We were physically together having brunch at Art Basel when that article was published.
Oh, wow.
I know. So
And
it's
you had no idea that like you guys would even be in it.
Oh no.
It's just like
Oh, no,
Was
no.
Violetta Zeroni one of those people?
course.
Okay, because
He
we've
was
had her
there.
on the show as well.
Yeah.
Sammy was there. I'm trying to remember the timeline, so I apologize, Josh or Emma, if you're watching, because they also had massive sales. I can't remember if they were in that list of 10 because Josh had sold just before and Emma sold after in the spring of this year. But we were all together, kind of celebrating together, and some of our biggest supporters, holders were at the table too. So we're just like,
that's wild.
So it's a funny
Shots.
it's a funny thing as an independent where like you move to NFTs as a creative and it's to be out of the grips of the corporate entity and this and that, but there is still certainly some sort of, because of the way things are structured, a measure of success that comes from an entity like Billboard coming out and saying like you're the tops. Do you feel in that moment like there is a sense of accomplishment, or do you kind of wave away that corporate entity and it's like, oh, whatever?
no, I am not a maxi, as they say. Like being in Rolling Stone or being in Billboard or being in a movie, these things that are generally considered to be accolades, they are significant because they're a signal of what's going on underneath the surface. And I can't have every person in my bedroom every day, every time I have a song idea.
Right.
Well, actually, Twitter Spaces is kind of that.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely important because it allows you to breathe a little bit and focus on the work. It's like, I did this thing.
And does that moment indicate to you that there, even more so, that yes, there is a place for me selling my music as an individual in this space, and that can be something that has longevity.
Heck
to
yeah!
it.
I mean, I'm gonna hit this point again. Adrian and I, unsigned independent artists, wrote and sang the title track to Robert De Niro's new movie, which premiered at TIFF, and we own the freaking master and publishing.
Can you believe those words are coming out of your mouth?
I got chills. And it's not about NFTs. It's not about this and that. It is independence. It's sovereignty. It's everything that we stand for. And we're working in tandem with institutions, with legacy names, and we're like, it's about leading the institutions into the future. It's not about eradicating them. I was actually in an Uber on my way to Seattle, I think this last trip. And the person who was driving was from Nigeria, and he was talking about how much he loves this country or whatever. And I love hearing that, because I'm like, yeah, your perspective is totally different than mine. It's really easy to get jaded by people that were born here, and they're like, well, we have all these problems. It's like, we actually have it kind of good.
Yeah. Everything is relative.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I think, I don't want to use the P word. I'm not getting political at all, but I think there are established organisms that are run by people that can be really effective, but they don't need to own us in order to be effective. They can work with us as independent creators.
Well, I love the idea that you're talking about transforming them and bringing them into this better place, into the future, as opposed to eradicating them. And that's a great mentality to have about anything and everything when you're looking at the peaceful resolution to things. It's not about eradication. It's about how do we come to some sort of an agreement that makes way more sense for everyone.
See, and it's like the agreements are still there because there's contracts, but like, and I think it just goes to education for the corporations, because they don't quite understand the technology, is what it seems like, because it makes them shake in their boots. And it's like not necessary.
Well,
we're at the point
it makes
that
them
like
shake because they're losing power in that instance, and they're not able to control how the money gets disseminated.
But that's what I mean. There's still contracts. They could breach the contract, and like it could go a different direction, but the agreement still stands at the beginning, right? So it's like whether it's a contract or a smart contract, but it just assures that the money goes to where it should.
You're making me think of something, which is that it's really about change. Corporations and
Don't
also
like change. Yes.
Yeah, corporations thrive off of staying relatively the same, off of homogenization, off of predictability. But corporations are not people. Like, humans thrive off of change. And I think the disconnect that we've experienced because of the way that we engage with each other, that every single person, whether you work for a corporation, are building a corporation, or you live in the woods, again, and everything in between, we have to remember that these entities and institutions were created to serve humanity, not the other way around. And I think we've lost that.
Yes.
That's a very good point.
Like your perception of like, wow, like the world, life, NFTs.
Well, we should get the coffee. Well, I want to hear yours too.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I like coffee. Yeah.
You trip me out sometimes, man. I love you. Yeah, I know. We got the time clock over there being held up by our very own Dan, who we love. Let's be considerate of your time, because you've given a lot of it to us already, and we very much appreciate that.
Screw Dan and I. Yeah.
What?
I'm saying you're being respectful of her time. You're not being respectful of mine.
Oh,
and
God.
Dan's.
You're so sensitive over there. We'll talk later over a coffee.
I like coffee.
Yeah, I know you do.
Deja vu.
Yeah. But why don't we roll into a song? Because you said you're going to grace us with a live performance.
Yeah, I think so.
Unless you've changed your mind now
I
after
haven't.
these silly questions.
No.
Do you want a little reverb on your microphone?
Yeah, let's do, and we're gonna DIY it slightly. No.
Yes.
Maybe,
So I'm going to go ahead and crouch by your guitar with my microphone and hold it up to your acoustic so we get those sounds, and then the vocals will come off your mic stand. Yeah?
Okay. Should we run a recording to give us a couple minutes to set up?
Yeah. No, we'll definitely go ahead and play a song. Actually, we'll play another one of your songs. If there's one that you'd like us to play in particular, we can definitely do that. Otherwise, we can just... reverb. Yeah.
I'd say hit Free to Love, because Adrian, who wrote the Ezra song, stars in that music video with me. So it's kind of a...
Cool.
Yeah, our first collaboration.
All right, let's do Free to Love while we go ahead and set up this track by Rae Isla.
stuck in my head. I'm off of the grind, had a little time to mend. I'm up, I'm down, I keep spinning out, but somehow you make me better. I tell you my life, staying up till 3 a.m. We talk every night, really getting down into it. I'm sinking deep into my bed. Why worry about tomorrow when we can't plan for it? I'm not afraid of falling, I'm just afraid of falling too hard. I think nature's calling. Why don't we go out in the yard where it's free to love? It's free to love. Spent a few long days of bliss, and somehow you know me so well, and I have a little breakdown. You're so good at calling me out. You say give in, have no regrets. We can relax when both of us are dead. I'm not afraid of falling, I'm just afraid of falling too hard. I think nature's calling. Why don't we go out in the yard where it's free to love? It's free to love. I'm not afraid of falling, I'm just afraid of falling too hard. I think nature's calling. Why don't we go out in the yard? I said I'm not afraid of falling, I'm just afraid of falling too hard. I think nature's calling. Why don't we go out in the yard where it's free to love? It's free to love. It's free to love. It's free to
All right. Another beautiful song from Rae Isla, and we are all set up for a live performance now, which I'm very excited about. What are you going to be playing for us?
I'm going to play, this is fun, the most recent release, which is a song called The Gardener, which actually was the first song I ever played live in a Twitter space.
Oh, wow.
So it's finally out everywhere, and it feels like a full circle sort of thing.
Fantastic. Well, I'm very excited to hear it. This is The Gardener by Rae Isla, live performing at the Art Department in West Hollywood, right off the Sunset Strip.
Nice. I'm so sorry. This is out of tune.
That's okay.
Bad. I just tuned it too.
It's all right.
It is a good moment to, I guess, say that this is my new guitar.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So you had mentioned that you were sponsored by a guitar brand. I have it written down here, but you can probably pull it faster than I can. What's
Eastman.
Eastman.
Come on, man.
Eastman Guitar. So how did you said that was kind of an interesting story as to how that came to be?
Well, actually, I think it is worth telling because it completes the thread of what we've been talking about. I went into McCabe's guitar shop in Santa Monica, sort of on a whim, actually to help Adrian get a guitar. And I picked up this hollow-bodied electric Eastman. I don't know why. I just moved to LA. I did not have money for a guitar. And it gravitated. And I just felt something, but I left because I just signed a lease. I could not be buying a guitar. But I ended up going back to the store 5 times and picking up that guitar every time. The last time I was there, I realized, you know what, I do need a new guitar. I'm going to put the budget aside. but I need an acoustic. I don't need an electric. So I tried like every Martin in the place. I was like, okay, this is the Martin I'm going to choose. And then I went to the counter to be rung up, and he's like, okay, so which one are you going to buy? And I'm like, ring up the Eastman. Do it right now. Just want to like, just do it. Because I keep thinking about that guitar. So I bought it, and then I ended up going home and like writing this funny song about the guitar because it was like became such a thing. And then Eastman Guitars saw it and reached out to me and invited me to a studio in Venice to shoot some video and some photos.
Oh, I saw
and
those.
then we haven't even released the full
Or
video.
I saw like the behind the scenes stuff you took.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, we're going to give you this guitar today and welcome to the family. Like, this is just the beginning.
That's
so
incredible.
insane.
Like you were literally about to buy a different brand guitar.
I bought
and then
it.
like last minute.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Last minute,
Yeah.
you're just like, fuck it.
It talk about like it's so
That's
funny because we
insane.
can trick ourselves, but I think when it's time to make a decision, especially one that feels risky in any way, there is a voice that's a little bit louder, and that's the one you got to listen to.
It's like on those shows where they have the gun to your head, and it's only in that moment that say it. Okay, this is
Yeah.
how I really feel. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even realize I felt like that.
Yeah.
And hopefully you don't need a gun to your head to figure that out.
Actually, that's a good point. I think I work well under pressure. Like if I have too much time, I don't do anything.
Yeah.
About to buy this guitar.
All right, let's not cut you off anymore. We've got the guitar tuned.
Yes, we
This
do.
is the Gardner
Yes, it is.
live.
I don't want to be the gardener. I don't want to be the reason we're alive. If we have to go a few days without water, I don't want to wake to see that we have died. I just want to love you and not have to try. Red was the color that I left you when I had to travel home. I never imagined what that might do to everything we had grown. But how can we wonder if we already know? I don't want to be the gardener. I don't want to be the reason we're alive. If we have to go a few days without water, I don't want to wake to see that we have died. I just want to love you and not have to How can we wonder if we already know? I don't want to be the gardener. I don't want to be the reason we're alive. If we have to go a few days without water, I don't want to wake to see that we have died. I don't want to hold the sun up in the sky. I just want to love you and not have to try. And not have to try.
Wow. Cool. That was
I
fantastic.
wish I could have looked at you, but
It's okay. You don't need to look at my dumb face while you're playing that gorgeous song. That's
thank you for holding the mic.
Absolutely,
It's-
my pleasure. That was a fantastic
awesome.
song. Yeah,
You're awesome.
Yeah,
my God.
love to hear you play live. It was really quite a pleasure and a privilege seeing you live in Seattle, and to see and hear you live again now was amazing. So while we were having our interview earlier, Lollyhops, a beloved member of the Frogland team who we operate under, came up and said, "You must give Rae a frog and welcome Rae into the Frogland community." So welcome.
I guess I should say ribbit.
Ribbit. That's
Yeah.
right. Yes. We're so excited to have you as part of our community now, and you get us over your ETH address, and we'll have that frog sent over to you. As I understand it, you've already been in communication with someone in the community, El Sapo, who is an absolute trip. Has a music platform that he's put together, and what's very cool is he took the time to grab NFTs from all of the artists that that have been on this platform, and add that as a specific section of his site. So there's stuff there to definitely
Go
look
find
at.
what you like in the music NFT space, which
yeah.
is really cool. It's pretty genius.
Yeah, and we'll reach out to Sapo and get that link from him so we can repost that once again. But thank you so much for making the time to be here today. I'm so glad we ran into each other in Seattle, and that kind of cemented the idea that you were going to be here, and we kind of just made it happen after that. It was like bada bing, bada boom. Let's do it before the holidays. We got you into the
Yeah.
studio. It happened.
See, I work well under pressure.
You do,
Right.
yeah. It's
So
we've been
here's
talking for like a really long time since we were in a completely different space, grassroots. But
Yeah.
then when it was time, we just pulled the trigger and bada bing.
And I think it's really cool, like we weren't ready for it back then. It's like now we actually have a space to offer you to perform in. You could throw a party here.
Yeah, and
we could do like a whole viewing of Ezra.
And I mean,
when it
Honestly,
comes
I
out.
know this is amazing, and
Yeah.
I don't think I didn't notice the tortilla.
yeah, the tortilla blanket under
blanket.
the DJ table. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, there's nothing to knock a grassroots situation like you were saying earlier, Rae, and it was kind of cool starting out in that space.
Had to start somewhere.
But a space like this does lend itself to us calling on a higher caliber of performer, and brings a bit of legitimacy to what
And
we
it's just
do.
weird
and it's not like,
for me
hey,
to-
Rae, you've been in Rolling Stone, come to the kitchen.
Yeah, it's just like some weird guy online inviting you to my
for the
house.
record-
But of all people, you would.
I definitely would have.
Yeah.
It's like you can
You said you were
worship
down.
in the dirt or in a cathedral sort of thing. But yeah, I'm I don't know, proud of you guys, like excited that you're evolving, because that is part of the deal. And
Yeah,
like,
I mean, like we said
yeah.
earlier, there is a business aspect to things too, right?
Yeah,
So got to
yeah.
evolve in order to make that part of it work.
Absolutely.
We're proud of you too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if this makes sense for the podcast, so you can cut it out because it is a time specific thing, but I'm flying the band down for another show in Venice at the Venice West. And you guys should come.
That would be
Because
Absolutely.
you've seen a live show, but you haven't seen the Rock Solid Band.
Oh.
They're
band.
so good.
Okay, so
When-
when is this happening?
January 11th at the Venice West.
January 11th. I think we need
Yeah.
to be there, Dave.
1-11.
That's awesome.
Easy
Right,
to remember.
right around Dave's birthday.
Yep. My birthday's
Birthday
the
party.
8th. Birthday party. I'll have some
Perfect.
drinks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Rocking
It's
into the
birthday
weekend with the
week.
Rock Solid
Yes.
Band.
Birthday
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
I think everybody deserves a whole week, especially if your birthday's on, what is that, a Monday?
Is it? Do you know that? How do you know that?
Well, because the 11th is a
Because she's
Thursday.
got a show around
the
Okay,
there.
10th
okay. I
is
thought
a
you were one of those
Wednesday. The
people.
9th is a Tuesday.
yeah.
Yeah. No, there are people though like that can just recall certain days, and it's like, oh, January 17th, 1962.
2026.
It was a Monday. It was raining outside.
Well, I might be, I turned 10,000 days old on January 1st of 2021.
Oh,
So there is like some kind of marker.
okay.
Isn't that weird?
That
That
is
is
weird.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
how
you're
many?
so
do you know?
cool.
I mean,
You have
but do you
such
know
a-
off the cuff how many days old you were today? Is that like a talent
Heck
of yours?
no.
Okay.
I don't even know what day it is.
It's Sapo
Saturday.
Hey, there we go. All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up
Dan's
here
getting mad
so
at us
that.
over here, Dan wants us to wrap it up. Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
No,
Dan's waving you down.
I think he was just getting excited about us calling out that it's Sapo Saturday.
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
Yeah.
Saturday.
You misread
He was
the-
hooting and
yeah,
hollering.
hooting and hollering.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. He wasn't like, get out of here.
Yes.
fair
But
enough.
anyway, no, we are extremely grateful that you made the stop here before getting on with your busy life, and this was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and
Getting
guess
to
what?
hear,
You have friends in Los Angeles now.
Thank God.
that's right.
Yeah.
Too many weekends spent.
Yeah.
No.
No,
No,
but
it's-
If you didn't have friends, I don't know if you didn't say. If you said you didn't have friends, I'm sure you
You
know people. I'm
assumed.
sure you know people.
You
Wow,
assumed.
You said you
Dave.
just moved here. I didn't know if you knew people. Like, I'm
Unbelievable.
being an asshole. Let's get out of here, man.
No, but if there's ever anything you want to promote, if you ever want to come back on the show, please reach out to us. You are definitely a friend of the show now. And if you ever want to have a live show in this space, we can maybe work something out because it is a fantastic space for that sort of thing.
There's 3 floors. I don't know if you've seen all of them, but you know.
No, just 2.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll wrap it up for us. Thank you everyone for being here in the space today. Everyone that stuck with us till the very end, we love you. And as I always say, we couldn't do this show without you out there in the verse, whether that be the Twitter verse, the Spotify verse, the Apple verse, wherever you're catching this show. So thank you very much. What?
I'm just laughing at you.
Yeah, I know. Always. We love you. Thank you so much for being with us today. Sapo Studios out.
Much love.